The Sandy and Toddcast is a Mindgarden Media podcast in association with
Screw You, Todd
Productions. Another week, another episode of the Sandy and Toddcast, and a brand new season.
We have returned, Todd. We are back with season 9. I just was telling you, we've done, I think, about 132 episodes of this podcast.
And that's just the audio, right? That doesn't include like all the video stuff we did for a while and blah, blah, blah.
That's right. And we'll talk about that in just a few minutes.
All right. This is season 9, episode 1. I'm calling it Independence Day, and I'll tell you why. It's on the way next on the Sandy and Toddcast.
Hey guys, it's me, Sandy.
And this is Dave, better known as #Poor Dave.
We don't always call you that. Anyway, in case you didn't know, Dave and I are part of a great new show called Empire Spirits.
It's where we hunt lots of ghosts in some of the most well-known bars and restaurants in central New York, along with a great cast
Of characters.
Yep, Bill Vinci, Michelle Klossick, Ryan Vinci, Lafayette Cunningham, and Heather Elias.
You'll be able to see each episode starting this fall on Facebook and YouTube.
Just like our Facebook page, Empire Spirits CNY, to keep up to date on the latest.
But we can't leave you without thanking our sponsors because, well, without them, it just wouldn't be happening.
So a big thanks to the Stife on Varick Street in Utica, Bill Vinci and the Empire Plate, Utica Coffee Roasting Company, and the Sandy and Toddcast.
We'd also like to thank Northeastern Roofing and Construction, northeasternroofs.com, Labella Flowers, that's labellaflowers.com, and Independent Artistry by Dawn Marie, independentartistry.dmf.com.
And we can't forget licensed real estate person Paul F. Sacco, 315-525-1377, with Howard Hanna Real Estate Services, or Joshua A. Amodio with Priceless Inspections, Central New York's top choice home inspector since 2012, 315-525-8725.
Now, back to the show.
Broadcasting from two very different yet magical places not found on any map. Get ready to discuss the strange, weird, ghostly, crazy, spooky, and odd things that take place around us each and every day. All while having a little bit of fun. This is the Sandy and Toddcast. Welcome to the Sandy and Toddcast. She is Sandy.
He is Todd.
And we're entering into season 9, episode 1.
Yeah.
Here we
go. And it's funny because we really were looking for some ideas from everybody as to what we should do. We didn't know if we wanted to do a theme or not a theme and just do some randomness and what we wanted to do this season, kind of take it in a different direction. And we actually got some answers or some requests.
Yep.
So we're going to fulfill those. I think it's just going to be a random season. Q&A. We can do some Q&A. If anybody has questions, we'd love to hear their questions and kind of talk about those. So funny. I think I said this to you, that I think it's just amazing that people want to hear what we think about things. I don't know. But, and then they relate to it, which is even more cool, that people can relate to, our thoughts and opinions on the paranormal or whatever it happens to be.
Right. Well, everybody has their own experiences. So if they're able to connect or feel like they're able to share their experiences, I think that's a positive thing. Something else that's going to be new this season, as I close my studio door. Let me do that. If you hear that squeaking in the background, we're going to start something new with a tarot card or an oracle card, basically a reading for the upcoming week. We typically we typically publish our podcasts on Sundays. So for the week ahead, we'll always get a look at what that may be for us as a collective with the Sandy and Toddcast. And Lorna from the UK, from Worcester, England, will be giving us a card reading every week. So
I think it's so amazing.
I'm really excited about it. We've wanted to have her on the podcast, and it's just never come to fruition for one reason or another.
Right.
Probably my fault.
Pretty much, yes.
F off. And And so we've got her to do this for us, and I'm really excited about it. So that'll be coming up later in the podcast. Once we're done talking about some of the stuff we're going to talk about, we'll get to that. So
yeah, and I love her. She is not only sweet, but she's extremely talented and has such great abilities.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about her really quick.
Please do.
She's just one of those people, like, you meet certain people in your life and you're just very lucky that you cross paths. And I crossed paths with her because I was working on a radio station in Worcester, England. And I was introduced by the owner of the station, and Lauren and I became friends because we realized we were both kind of woo-woo and all that kind of stuff. Yep. And she's just been a very good friend and confidant and somebody that I really, really care about. I have always thought that she is very talented when it comes to readings and things of that nature. Even more so, her talent shows in art. She is artistic. And I have always been somebody to say, you should go after that. You should follow that. That should be your path, whether it's reading cards for people and helping people that way or art kind of stuff. You should do that. And for so long, she kind of fought me on it. And I think now she's really kind of putting it out there and really wanting to kind of go for it. So she probably doesn't like the fact that I shared that story, but I don't care. And number two, she's going to be absolutely fantastic. I think she's finally putting it out there for the universe to take a hold of it and help her along. And I'm excited about that for her.
I agree. I love her. I have obviously never met her, but I just adore her. And as someone who is not only a strong empath, but is a sensitive, who is very open to other emotions and feelings, I get nothing but good feelings from her.
Yeah.
Nothing but good feelings. And I think, to your point about the art, the artistic abilities and the psychic abilities, I think that when you do have abilities like that, empath to full-on psychic medium abilities, I think that because you are so much more open, that allows you to be more creative, to be more artistic. Now, I cannot draw to save my life, but there are other things in my life that I think I am very good creatively at, and I can, enhance those abilities. And I think that's how Lorna is. Lorna is very artistic, and she is able to be open enough to have her artistic abilities enhanced. I saw what she sent you as a gift.
Yeah.
I mean, she's just all around wonderful and very talented. And I am so happy. And honestly, I feel honored to have her do our weekly tarot readings for us because she is just, she's quite a person. I wish she could come over and meet us at some point.
I don't think she would want to do that. I don't think she wants to know either one of us that intimately. One of the things I have to tell a story. So she collects sea glass. Yes. And if you don't know what that is, and I'll make it a very lay person kind of explanation, but garbage in the sea, basically it wears down glass and stuff that's in the sea, and that washes up on the shore. And it's these beautiful pieces of glass that are no longer necessarily sharp and all that kind of stuff. They look like little stones and stuff like that. And so she will search these beaches for a perfect sea glass to make art from. And right. She used some of that sea glass to create a very nice, I don't even know what you call it, but it's a piece of art. It's got sea glass in it. It's got little stones. She made it look like Winston. And it was sort of,
I guess, a mosaic, maybe?
Yeah, maybe something like that.
Something like a mosaic.
She just nailed it. And now because of where she found that sea glass, I think the story is that she calls it Winston's Beach now.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So I that's just very, very, that's the kind of person she is. She's just very, very sweet. So
she's a really good person.
We'll get her card a little bit later on.
Yeah. And speaking of that, we're going to have a new feature on our Facebook page, the Sandy and Toddcast Facebook page, and we're going to do a Tarot Tuesday, a Tarot 101. Every Tuesday, we'll be releasing it. And what we're going to do is I'll be explaining each week what each different tarot card means. So, for example, the Three of Wands. 1 week, I'll talk about the Three of Wands and what that means so that you can kind of learn the different cards and what they actually mean. And many people don't realize this, but there's different meanings for the cards, whether they're upright or they call it reversed, which is upside down. So kind of a neat, cool feature, about a minute long each week. And hopefully everybody will like that. And maybe it'll encourage you to get a deck of tarot cards and learn a little bit more about tarot. I am by no means that great at tarot, but I do have a deck. And I just pulled for you the other day. I can pull and I can read, but I don't do like the different layouts. I do one card at a time. And if I feel like I need to pull a second one to get more clarification, I'll do that. But my hat off to everybody who can do the huge spreads of cards, because I think that's just amazing. So anyways, brand new feature that we have on our Facebook page.
Yep. And, looking ahead at the season, what will it be? Well, we're going to take some of the ideas that folks have given us, and we'll talk about some of those things. A lot of things. We're going to talk, obviously, about paranormal and more cemetery visits. And my sister is very interested in something called glitches in the Matrix, which we'll talk about a little bit this season. I know some of our other podcast listeners are into that as well. So we'll talk about that. Today, we're going to kind of talk a little bit about aliens and UFOs. And that's why I called it Independence Day, this particular episode, because of course, the movie, right, where the aliens come down and blow up the White House and all that kind of stuff.
It was a good movie.
I never saw it.
It was a good movie.
Yeah, I don't watch stuff like that.
Well, I don't normally, but I'll tell you what, Todd, like, I like things that I actually are not like cartoonish.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was obviously, I don't know if that was how many years ago? 25 years ago?
Yeah,
now it's a possibility. We don't know anymore.
Right.
But back then it was kind of science fiction, but it was really well done. So it was a good movie. Good movie. I don't watch a lot of those movies, but it was good.
So speaking of movies, are you going to go see Insidious?
I went to see Insidious.
Okay. And?
The Red Door.
You're talking about the latest one, right?
I went with my friend Mark last Monday night.
Okay.
Yes. I went with my friend Mark to the movies. Last Monday night, we both really enjoyed the original Insidious movie.
Yeah.
And I was so excited. I haven't seen the other ones. I just saw the very first one. He's seen all of them. And we were both really excited about it. So now I haven't been to the movies in probably, I think the last one I saw was either Kung Fu Panda or Alvin and the Chipmunks with my niece. Okay, so we're talking probably 2017, 2018, because I just don't go to the movies very often. I'm not a huge movie person. So the biggest surprise was that they redid our theater, and we now have recliners instead of regular seats, and it's stadium seating. And the best part was that you could push the button and your recliner went back and your feet went out. I was like, that was the best part of the night, let me tell you.
In my day, the seats were made of wood.
I know. I was so excited, though. But anyways, and then the movie came on, and I have to say that it was pretty awful. And it makes me sad that it was awful, because the first one was so good. So good, Todd. And again, I didn't see the other ones, but this one was just awful, and I didn't like it at all. Mark agreed. He was disappointed in it. And for the amount of money they charge you, I'm going to think twice or 6 times before I go to see another movie. I want to make sure it's going to be something that I love.
Yeah. And then here's the other hard part for me. So, and for folks that didn't see Insidious, and you're not understanding what we're talking about, too bad. But so the lead guy in Insidious is also the lead guy in the Conjuring series.
Yes.
Right. So
Patrick Wilson.
Right. Okay. So he's a lead character in the Insidious string of movies, and of course in the Conjuring. Now, the Conjuring, for the most part, when you look at all the movies that they have in that series, it's a pretty good series. There are some really good episodes in that whatever.
Yes.
So whenever I see him in a movie now, I want him to be Ed Warren. That's who I'm expecting it to be. And I'm expecting Lorraine Warren to be in the movie too. And she's not there. And so it's a little hard for me to go back and forth.
Yeah, it's a good movie. The first one was fantastic. Like, the first one was right up there for me with The Ring, which in the more modern era of movies, there aren't many great thriller horror movies. You and I go back to The Exorcist and, The Omen and things like that. That was real art.
Yeah.
But in the more modern era, there's not a lot of really good, so for me, The Ring was really well done and it was really scary. Like, for some reason, The Ring just totally affected me. And that's kind of what you want when you see a horror movie.
Absolutely.
You want to be affected.
Yeah.
And Insidious to me was pretty much right up there with The Ring. It was such a good movie. It was so well done. And then there was this. And this is supposed to kind of wrap up and explain some of the stuff that happened originally. Because from what I understand, the second one had a little bit to do with the original, and the other one or two didn't have anything to do with the original. So this one was supposed to be the end of the series. It was supposed to explain some things, wrap things up, and I was just completely lost. And I didn't even need to see the other ones because all I needed to see was the first one, and and I believe Patrick Wilson actually directed this one, if I'm not mistaken. And I just didn't like it at all. It was just awful.
Well, that's disappointing, but I'm glad you told me because now I won't waste money on it.
You really, honestly, there were some people who thought it was fantastic. I'm not really sure who. And I'll just wrap it up by saying this, Todd. I hate when you watch a movie and it's all completely in the dark and you have to guess at what's going on. Yeah,
I agree.
And you're sitting in front of this huge surround sound screen and it was all 98% dark on the screen. And all you could see was like the whites of people's eyes. And I'm like, I don't even know what's going on in this movie right now. I have no idea. So the whole thing just really didn't set well with me. So I bought our tickets. Our tickets came to $32 and they do reserved seating so that you can pick your seats, which I think is cool too. And Mark paid for the snacks, which came to $26, I think it was. So we paid almost $60.
Yeah.
For it, and that's why I think I'm going to make sure it's something that gets really good reviews before he's like, man, we should have gone and seen Guardians of the Galaxy Part 3. I said, I know, I don't even know that movie, and I'd rather go see that movie.
I do have a present for you. I thought I would do this for you. I think it's kind of important at this point to play this. So if you don't know, that's like a main recurring theme, and at least the first Insidious, and
which is funny because I think way back in either season 1 or season 2, we were talking about our favorite scary movies.
Yeah, and that was one of them, right?
That was one you picked, and you played that.
Yeah, and I think I'm pretty sure I did, and I mean because. That song, creepy as it is on its own, was actually kind of a hit at the time for Tiny Tim.
Yeah.
Who was the person who sang that. Very odd, strange fellow.
Very odd, man.
But the way they used it in the movie was really creepy.
It was very creepy. And you know what? That's what makes I don't know if you want to say horror movie, thriller, horror, but it makes it magical.
Yeah.
Is when it can affect you. And I've never been a big person on the bloody, gory stuff.
Right.
To me, what makes a piece of art is where it affects you, whether it's a drama, a comedy, an adventure, or a horror movie. It really needs to affect you. And I think that's where the magic lies, in the fact that you can go home and still be thinking about it for a while after you watch it because it just got to you.
Stirs up fear, stirs up happiness, stirs up sadness, whatever that is.
Sure.
Makes you think whatever. Yeah. Ooh, just thinking about that whole scene with the little shadow figure and the windows opening and all that. It's like,
such a good movie. Such a good movie, that original one. And even though The Conjuring itself wasn't really, it was not very close at all. They used a lot of license with it. That was a very well done movie as well.
Yeah.
Really well done movie. So, it is what it is, but
it's Hollywood.
Yep, exactly. So, yeah. So that was my little movie review. Don't go see it unless you want to spend a lot of money. Wait for it to come where you can, pay $10 to watch it at home or something. That's much better. So
one of the TV shows that I don't think is coming back. We talk a lot about like paranormal shows and stuff like that from Discovery Networks and what's coming back and what's not coming back and all that. Mm-hmm. A show that I really, really liked was something called Fright Club. And it had the Ghost Brothers and it had Jack Osbourne on it. And what I really liked about it was paranormal, but it also included like alien stuff in the skies. It was all the videos, all that
cryptid, everything.
Yeah, skinwalkers, whatever you want to call the whole. I mean, it had all of it. And I really miss that because I learned a lot about what people were seeing in our country, in our world, that we don't hear about every day. Weird lights in the skies, the way, all that kind of stuff. And I really wish they would bring that back because I know that there's places on TikTok you can go to look up this stuff.
Right.
The thing that bothers me about social media is that
all of it. No,
no, what always concerns me is people will say, well, shut off the news. It's all blah, blah, blah. And that could be true. That very it could be all true. But social media, I mean, it is based on the fact that you need to get lots of viewers, lots of hits, all that kind of stuff. So a lot of what you see is some truth and a lot of licenses you just said about The Conjuring. And, not everything you see on there is true. Some of it not true at all.
Right.
I've seen videos of I don't want to say higher up people, but people who are very well known talking about things and it never take place. I'll just give you a quick example. So Luke Combs, who's a country star, and I happen to really like Luke Combs. He's a bigger guy. And in the last year or so, he's lost a lot of weight. And so a company took a video of him talking on a podcast about his journey to weight loss. And then he's talking, but starts talking about these gummies that he's been taking that's helped him lose weight. At a certain point, they cut the video of him talking about it on the podcast and inserted AI, artificial intelligence, Luke Combs, talking about these gummies. And he's had to come out and say, I've never taken a gummy in my life.
Right.
So it looks real. It sounds real, but it may not be real. So that's what concerns me about social media.
That actually happens more than people think.
There's
a lot of those ads out there you'll see on your Facebook feed that say Oprah Winfrey takes these gummies or Oprah Winfrey does this. And Oprah Winfrey does not take gummies, or she'll come out and say, I don't take this or I don't do this. I haven't done that. And it's just kind of ridiculous.
Or so-and-so paid for this to happen and COVID and all that. It's like, just be careful what you buy into.
Yeah.
It's so easy to think that stuff. And here's the thing. Some of it is very, very true. Just for each individual, take in what you see and process it and realize that, some of what you're experiencing, it's like investigating a haunted house. Okay. There might be something going on, but the banging in the walls could very well still be just the pipes,
That's right. But great example. Dave and I, the Braylock Inn in Casanova, New York. Dave and I have stayed there twice now. And then we actually did an investigation there a few months ago for Empire Spirits, the show that we're doing. And the first time ever that we stayed there, we kept hearing these knocking sounds. Well, it's all like forced heat in there because it's so old. And it was actually just the pipes. And so we had to debunk that right away. And so circling back to the show with the Ghost Brothers and Jack Osbourne, one thing that show taught me is, unless it's something like the lights over Arizona 25 years ago, or this huge thing that happened to catch up in the media, somebody in the media caught it and, turned it into the circus. Everyday people have experiences.
Yep.
Everyday people see things or hear things or experience things, cryptids or, lights in the sky or this or that. And we don't hear about that. And so I think that kind of feeds into the idea that these people are crazy because we don't understand, generally speaking, we don't understand just how many people are experiencing this. And it makes it sound like just this select few people are actually experiencing things. So I really have to give kudos to that show because even though it's meant to be kind of lighthearted and mysterious, it actually has a little bit deeper meaning in that it kind of brings to the forefront the idea that, our neighbor could have experienced something or, our cousin may have experienced, our brother. So I really like that show. I love Jack Osbourne. I think that Jack Osbourne is somebody who is fascinated by the paranormal world and isn't afraid to admit that he doesn't know as much as you might expect him to know, even doing these shows, that he still gets nervous. He still has these emotions. But he's fascinated and he has a passion for it and it comes through.
One thing I like about the show, too, is when they show a piece of evidence, they don't go, well, wow, that's truth. What they do is they get somebody who is very knowledgeable in that field and have them come on to tell their side of what they're seeing in the video or experiencing. So sometimes stuff gets shot down.
Yeah.
Like they'll just say, that's more likely something blah, 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 or whatever. But a lot of times they're able to back up the experience as something that is very, very possible.
Yeah. And you and I and Dave as well are debunker. Like we've had several private talks amongst ourselves of things that have been going on with me that I said to Dave in the car yesterday, we were discussing it, and I said, I really struggle with this because there's part of me that wants to believe that this is going on so badly because it would be a beautiful, amazing thing.
Right.
But there's still that little 5% of me that says, I just don't have any solid way of knowing for sure. And if I look back on the past year, because it only really happened in the past year and the events that happened, I can get a much clearer idea of where my belief lies. And I do, but there's still that little part of you.
Yep.
So I think that, it's great to have these people on who can give the other side of the story or give their educated opinion as to what it could be so that we're all just not blindly going into everything that happens to me or everything I experience or do paranormally, even my visits to the cemetery. I'm always looking at the other side of it as well. And I think that's the healthy, smart way to do it. I'm trying to debunk these things as much as I can. We just talked about an experiment I did over the weekend. Always trying to debunk it because I want to know for sure that if I saw what I think is Sasquatch out in the woods, that it really was Sasquatch out in the woods.
Yeah.
And if I saw this or I did this or I experienced this, I want to know because isn't that what we're doing? Isn't that why we're doing this? Why we're passionate about it? Because we want to know what really happens and not just accept everything for what we want it to be. We want to be sure. So yeah, but I love that show. And one more quick thing, and then we can talk about something else. But speaking of shows, we were talking last week about the Dead Files.
Yes.
And how you, after you watched the season of the Dead Files, I think there's 6 episodes so far. Dave and I are 2 episodes into the season. You went back and watched the beginning of the Dead Files.
Yep.
15 seasons ago. And you said it was the first episode, right? Dave and I are going to go back and watch it. Was a place in Erieville, New York that, funny enough, is actually 15 minutes from our camp.
It always is. Everything is just a drive from Sandy's house. This is just around the corner from me is this cemetery.
It's crazy, right? Like, like the Foskett family,
Yep.
Elva from Bachelor's Grove to Herkimer, New York. So Friday night, we were out driving around, and I said, Dave, let's drive over to, what's it called? The Erieville Manor.
I think so.
Let's drive over to the Erieville Manor, and let's take a picture for Todd. So here's the funny part, Todd. We've been on that road a million times and just never realized that that's where the house was. We went by that house a million times out driving in the back roads, literally 15 minutes or less. It was probably, about 15 minutes from our camp. And we stopped. We didn't want to look like stalkers, but we took a couple pictures for you. It's right near Tuscarora Lake. And so we got to see it. I love those things. I love being able to see those things. Is it still
like a bed and breakfast, or did they stop doing that?
It is a bed and breakfast, as far as
Gotcha.
I can tell.
Okay.
Now, it doesn't really look, I'm not really sure. Now, the guy who owns it is an architect.
Yeah.
And I'm not really sure if he's going for a really rustic look.
I think he is.
It doesn't look like a big fancy redone place. But I looked at the rooms online. Again, it's Erieville Manor if you want to look it up. And the rooms are gorgeous, if not a bit overdone.
Right.
I mean, it's actually, the rooms are
if not
gorgeous.
a bit overdone.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's got like lights coming up from under the bed in one of the rooms. And there's a lot of land. There's a little creek and some walking trails in the back. And, the barn that was in the episode. Everybody should go back and watch the episode. Dave and I are going to do it maybe tonight. And I can't remember exactly what happened, but I think the guy was doing some sort of witchy stuff in there in the barn or something.
I don't know if it was in the barn, but there was like an addition or the oldest part of the house.
Yes.
He was doing his version of a Ouija board is what happened.
Yes. And you could see the house is in actually 2 and possibly 3 parts.
Yeah.
And the farthest section back was built, I think, in the 1790s or something, 1798 or something. And the front of the house wasn't that much later at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, you could see it in sections. So that may have been what it was. So interesting episode. I don't know if he's still got ghosty problems, but my guess is probably yes. So if you're ever in that neck of the woods and you want to stay in a haunted place, you could. And it does give off. A lot of times I find that I have to be in really close proximity of something to really pick up a lot. You've seen me when we were at Oshkosh at the Opera House. I literally put my hand on the wall outside.
And everybody walking by was staring at her, wondering what the hell she was doing.
Thought I was insane. But I usually have to be fairly close proximity. But you do get kind of an odd vibe off of the house. So my guess is that it's probably still got activity in there. I don't think he did too much with it because, let's face it, stuff like that is usually a draw.
Right.
So that was kind of neat. I sent you the pictures, and of course, there's no internet there. Like in that area, there's like nothing. 4G, 5, nothing. So we had to wait until we got closer to like the Morrisville area, and then I sent you the pictures. So I have
a question for people because, I talk a lot about like I could go live out in the middle of nowhere. Like I could live in Erieville probably, right? And get away from most people and live my life very quietly.
Amen.
How do you deal with no internet? No, I'm serious. Like, how do you deal with no internet? I it's stupid, but I want internet.
I know. I do too. I don't know how people could do it. There are nowadays, you can pretty much get some level of internet everywhere. Yeah. Like at our camp, we have no phone service and we have no internet, but we get satellite internet. Yeah. Which is very slow and pretty horrendous, but we still get slow internet. So pretty much everywhere you go. The problem for like Dave and I are going to be taking Spike and we're going to go up on a mini vacation this week into the Adirondack Park. And there's a house there that has, because the DEC, the Department of Environmental Conservation in the Adirondack Park, has pretty much banned cell service in that area where we're staying. And so it does have high-speed Wi-Fi, though. So now you're talking in the middle of the Adirondack Park. You can still get that fiber internet.
Yeah.
But you have no self-service. So luckily, I have Wi-Fi calling on my phone. So we will be able to use the phone. But how do people survive without any of that in a day like this? And I get like being off the grid.
Yeah, but what about for emergencies and stuff? That doesn't make sense to me. Like if it was an emergency, wouldn't you want to make a phone call? And what's so bad about cell service, but Wi-Fi is okay?
I know. I don't know. And the closest to where we're going to be that has like the place we're staying, the town we're staying in is a population of 59.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. And then the closest that has any kind of life is about, I think, 16 miles away. And then more life is about, I think it's 30 miles away. So, I mean, you're talking emergency situations. Like, what do you do if you don't have Wi-Fi and you don't have cell service? What if your Wi-Fi goes down and there's an emergency? Then what do you do?
You said the number 59 for 59 people. And all I can think of is like I say, I don't want to be around people. And I almost think it needs to be 0 because you said the word 59 or the number 59. And I freaked out a little bit because they're probably, I'm thinking like if there's 59 people in this town, that's about it, or this area, they got to be kind of strange, right? It's got to be like a horror movie.
Let's compare it to Washington Island. Probably the same kind of thing. It's probably pretty, it's your own little kind of culture in that area. And the place we're staying, it's so cool. And I'll tell you guys about it next week. I think we'll talk about aliens. We're going to do a topic on aliens next week. But the place that we're staying in is very historic. I'll just tell you this, and then we can go to Lorna. It was built in 1925 as a replica of the Mayflower. So it literally looks like a boat. Okay.
Oh, God.
It was built by a hunting guide. So he would have people stay there before and after hunting expeditions. And then down the road, it became a bar and restaurant. And the top of it actually had a deck for outdoor dining. And then it was left to fall into disrepair. And then these people bought it and they've redone it. It's got like a pirate theme. And I'm so excited. But the cool thing,
are you going to wear a patch and a fake leg or anything like that?
I might just go arg at Dave a lot and see what he says.
Don't you already do that? Poor Dave.
I know. Poor Dave. Hashtag poor Dave.
Yep.
And, but the cool thing that I read about the house is by the owner is that when they were renovating the house, they found a 1920s era. This is so weird, Todd. 1920s era picture of a flapper. You know, the ladies that had the short dresses and in the wall, sealed in the wall of the place. And so they took it out of the wall and it's hanging in the house.
Yeah.
And so you better believe we're bringing our equipment. You better believe it's going down because I just feel like there's got to be something going on in there that may not be apparent to a lot of people. But I think between my abilities to pick things up and any equipment we bring in, we may actually be able to find out a little bit about a story that may be going on there. So I think that's super cool.
Any house that has something left behind, like a photo or something like that, has to have something going on. In fact, the story about the manor, the Erieville Manor, he found a picture within the wall as well. And my house in Oshkosh, in an attic location, there was a wedding picture.
See?
So, I mean, why do people leave that behind?
That's just crazy. What Dave said. I was telling Dave about it last night, and he said, why would somebody leave a picture in a wall? Now, we've seen, I remember Kindred Spirits did an episode a couple of seasons ago about shoes being left.
Yep.
Do you remember that episode? It was a good episode about shoes being placed into a wall, and that was almost like protection or a curse. Some kind of curse. What
it was it was to hold the evil spirits.
Yes.
Would go into the shoe.
Yes, and when they retrieved the shoes and got rid of them, the activity calmed down. And so I'm wondering if it is along those lines. Did people put things? I remember people have found pennies and things in walls and, coins and stuff. Is it all just this kind of not necessarily superstition, but maybe magic way of thinking that protection or drawings? I'm not talking about the evil stuff that like Michelle Belanger deals with, because she deals with a lot of occult stuff that they find in walls or under stairwells or in dirt in cellars. But I mean, these simple things, being a house that's 100 years old, did somebody do that? Did somebody put that in there for some reason?
Or just, okay, so my friend Tony, who I love very much, and I do a podcast with him too, is a little crazy. Mm-hmm. And so, like, he's the kind of person that if he remodels a part of his house, he will put like a pentagram in the wall or something like that.
Really?
Just to freak people out. I just wonder if, if those things were left behind as a way to remind future generations who may open up the wall or whatever, hey, these people were part of this.
Maybe like a time capsule?
That kind of, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It'll be interesting. I will take a picture of it for sure.
Yeah.
And maybe do some video of us asking questions and things and doing a little investigating. I mean, we have 3 days to investigate up there. And we're also going to be driving around looking for moose and bear. And I won't be interviewing them, however. But I will put some up on our Facebook page and in our group so that people can kind of see what I'm talking about. But I don't know what it looks like, so we'll have to see.
All right.
She said it was rather racy, so I'm kind of not sure what we're in for here.
Oh, yeah.
But it should be nice. The place gets a great reviews. I mean, it's just really, really neat. So it should be a lot of fun. But yeah, so next week we will discuss all things aliens. That was a request.
Yep.
And I actually have some really cool stuff we can talk about with that. And I'll keep some of it secret for you so we can get your honest opinion on it.
All right. And brand new to the podcast this week, Lorna's joining us. She's going to pull a card for the collective each week to let us know about the week ahead. And this is Lorna's bit.
Hi, everyone. This week's card for the week ahead is from Raise Your Vibration Oracle by Kyle Gray. The card we're talking about this week to represent us as a collective is Devotion Unites Me with the Infinite. I really want to highlight that sometimes we need to stop and take account of where our love and devotion is directed. So we spend a lot of time for our family, our loved ones, our jobs, our employers, our homes, and our day-to-day responsibilities. But how much time do we devote to ourselves? I'm talking simple self-care and time out from our busy world and our chaotic lives. So many of us juggle so many things in life, but how often does that include love, devotion, and gratitude to ourselves? Self-care doesn't need to mean being utterly selfish. It just means creating time for ourselves to get a really good balance, fulfilling our needs for our own personal growth or development, or finding some peace of mind, or having some headspace. Without these things, we can't juggle everything that we need to juggle, and we certainly can't do it effectively. This card's telling us to just take a step back, take a look around us, stop and smell the flowers, stop and smell the coffee, whichever floats your boat. Just take some time and devotion out for yourself. Do something that brings you joy, and just sit, relax, and do something for you. Find that balance and find that peace, and just see the benefits that you get from that in the following week as we go forwards.
There you go.
I love it. I can listen to an English accent all day long. I love it.
There's your reading for the collective from Lorna this week on the Sandy and Toddcast. Now here's our spiel, speaking of British accents.
You can find the Sandy and Toddcast on any of the platforms that you normally find your podcasts, including YouTube and Twitter. Be sure to like the Sandy and Toddcast on Facebook to keep up on the latest goings-on, including each week's episode. You can also join our group, Stay Weirdos, friends of the Sandy and Toddcast for more fun. Stay Weirdos is a safe place to share your thoughts, feelings, ideas, and random inappropriate memes without judgment. Sandy and Todd also have a podcast called the Empathecary Podcast. It's for empaths, by empaths. And if you know an empath, you might want to listen too. Find and like the page on Facebook. And finally, if you're thinking about starting your own podcast and just aren't sure where to start, Sandy and Todd can also help with that too. Mindgarden Media is their latest project where the dynamic duo can guide you every step of the way in your podcasting journey. Editing, producing, and consulting is what they do. Like Mindgarden Media on Facebook or email them at themindgardenmedia@gmail.com. And as always, thanks for staying weird.
We sort of have a English theme going on for all eternity.
My friend Tony does the intro, so maybe we got to boot his ass and get somebody else to do the intro. Hey, you're listening to the Sandy and Toddcast. Oh, yeah, very good stuff. Sandy talks a lot. Chop, 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 chop. Oh, it's very good. Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. No, although Tony has that down. I mean, he's got that down. So... But anyway, if anybody has any Q&A questions they'd like us to go through this season, we're just going to kind of leave this out into the, throw it out into the universe and see what comes. Next week, again, is Aliens. We've got a couple of other requests. And if anybody has questions that they'd like answered, we can do some Q&A. And maybe we'll throw some weird news in there this season. So we'll have a lot of fun.
All right. Stick around because the Sandy and Toddcast is back for Season 9. Episode 2 comes out next week. Until next week. Bye.
Bye.